All right, everybody, welcome to That's the Thing. I'm your host, Lawler, and with me is Johnny Boy, as always. But we have a special guest who, as a special announcement, is actually no longer a guest. I would like you all to welcome Mr. Quinn, the LAN Boy Lobdell, as a full-time member of That's the Thing. Quinn is going to be joining us from now on. Quinn, for those that weren't here last week, would you like to give an introduction of who you are, why we, for some reason, considered bringing you on, kind of give your little spiel?
Okay. I've been a pro player, like competitive scene, on like top 5 teams pretty much since the scene's been around. I'm a LAN boy, so I made it to RLCS, competed in the LAN and everything. Got like a nice sweet blue title. I'm typically pretty analytical person, so I'd love to theory craft, talk. You know what I'm saying? Hang out, whatever.
I know what you're saying.
Sounds good. Well, if you guys missed it last week, don't be afraid to go check that one out. But yeah, Quinn's gonna be joining us. I'm gonna be taking more of a host role, kind of stepping back and trying to separate these two when they get in a fighting match of kissing with their, I don't know, whenever they're going back and forth at each other. But yeah, see, it's already started. But yeah, so I'll separate them if I need to, but still put in my own 2 cents if I need to as well. So speaking of 2 cents, thank you for all the cheers, you guys. We're starting this one off great. But for those that are new to That's the Thing, it is a weekly podcast where we discuss imperative topics. Words. Take two, boys. We discuss imperative topics in the Rocket League community. Each week, we're generally joined by a special guest, but instead of having a special guest this week due to scheduling issues with the RLCS, we decided we might as well announce Quinn as a full-time member instead. So that's what we're doing this week. So we still have 3 of us. Usually we discuss kind of the juiciest gossip. We dive into news in the community. We all try to keep it somewhat serious, but also lighthearted, because at the end of the day, we try to have a focus on you guys, because that's what the thing is. So exciting stuff this week. This week, we're going to be talking about what is coming up today, tomorrow, and the rest of this weekend. The groups results are hopefully going to be settled. We're basically looking at the top 64 teams battling it out in the RLCS. Those are going to be streamed, where I'm lucky enough to be joining those guys on the broadcast on twitch.tv/Rocket League. And there's a lot of teams that potentially, based upon how and who wins or loses based upon NA and EU, NA is kind of pretty clear cut, but EU's got some pretty crazy stuff going on, which is exciting. I know Johnny's excited to talk about that. But we're going to kind of talk about who we think is going to get in and why. And then we're going to talk about why those are and how that follows up by things that make a team successful. What kind of key figure things or what kind of proponents of a team make them so good. And we're going to reference that to players as well as teams that kind of emulate that experience. There's going to be no Community Rising Stars this week just because of everything is Rumble. It's just, you guys didn't really make anything. The only like real videos I saw, there's a couple of montages that we've seen from in the past. I had like a Rumble like thing put together, but I'm not going to put my own video on the Community Rising Stars. That's just stupid. So literally, if you guys want to see what has happened in the past week, go watch all the Rumble highlights that have been on the subreddit. That's pretty much what has all happened this week, because the patch was amazing and everybody loves it. So thank you, Psyonix, for killing it once again for probably, in my opinion, the best patch. Like I assume you guys agree.
To date, this is by far the best patch. Like cumulatively, all the things they included, just like the quality of life improvements, like presets. Wow.
Yes. It's so cool for like, dude, like everybody loves it, you know?
Yep.
Like the pros love it, the casuals love it, people who just want to, have some fun with their friends and make some cool cars, they love it, and they finally added crates. Like there's nothing to complain about, really.
What I want to know is, I want to know where we're at already for the prize pool increase from like keys being sold. Because I don't know a single person that has either held onto the crates and just not opened them, because they've either been traded away. Like they're usually getting traded away. I know you're holding up for 100. Mason just opened 80 yesterday. Like
he did, yeah. He like traded everything cool that he had for crates. So maybe I have to do that. Trade away everything for a ton of crates.
He pulled like 900 viewers or something like that. So awesome to see from that. But
I sent him a big host.
I'm excited to see. Yeah, I'm excited to see how that pans out. But makes me excited and nervous as well for when they officially announce it for the RLCS. Be like, yeah, prize pool, we said it was like 250,000 plus. They're like, yeah, like, well, it's 5 million now because you guys buy it. Like, it's gonna be nuts. I don't think it'll be that
Dude,
high,
I hope
but
it's not that much. That would be too
oh, I would
much.
lose it. I would
That'd
lose
be
it.
too much. It would be so scary, you know? Like all these guys, we know all of the pros now.
Right.
Imagine like just changing one of their
Imagine,
lives. It's like, oh yeah,
imagine
you were gonna have a pretty
16-year-old
normal
turtle,
life.
like
Boom.
16-year-old turtle,
millionaire.
16-year-old turtle. Hey man, here's $45,000 just for
Yeah.
you. What do I do with that? No one knows. Like, you can't even drive yet. Like, it's stupid.
That would be pretty sick. Yeah, I've got high hopes.
Yeah, the other cool
Yeah.
thing to see in mutators, Johnny and I talked about this. Like, I would like to see a competitive mutators where like each one of your teammates can only pick one power up.
Competitive Rumble, you mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Or that's what I meant.
Oh,
Rumble.
Rumble and Power
Me
Up.
and Scrub did a 1v1 in Rumble. The only problem is that boot is a free goal every time.
That's why you run
Dude,
civilized, man.
listen,
Run civilized.
civilized Rumble.
Whoa,
Leave
dude.
it to me to figure out how to make things work in 1v1. I've done
Dude,
it
no, we
already.
were gonna
Figured
do
out.
it, but I mean, it's just like, I don't know.
Civilized 1v1, you wait for the power-ups to spawn before you go for the kickoff, because even if you're slightly
Yeah, we waited for
mistimed
the
with
power
your-
to spawn.
Yeah, even if you're slightly, people are saying, oh, but it's not fair. What if one person arrives sooner? Well, one guy's probably got like a haymaker, the other guy's got freeze. Like, let's
Johnny,
be real, it doesn't matter who arrives at the ball
I
first. You're
wish
just
you
gonna
saw
beat
the
it
1v1
anyway.
that me and Scrub had. I blew his mind with my Rumble mastery. and then on the, and then
When did you play him?
I played him like a few days ago. But like on the we get to overtime and he just has a boot that's like easy win. I was so sad, man. I was heartbroken. But yo, Octagon. That
So
map
good.
is sick.
Sick. I
Great
love
map.
it, man.
Put it
No,
put it
this
in
is so
ranked
sick.
as soon as possible, please. Like,
Respect
skin it,
that.
put it in. Don't skin it. I don't care.
Respect
Just put it in. Put it in. It's good.
I mean, making a
Yeah,
map that just
agreed.
doesn't
I
have
can
weird
see.
curves and bounces that like slow down the gameplay, make it awkward.
Yeah, same
Right.
bounces, but new map. That's what I like to see.
Right.
It's really good.
For those that
Octagon
did not
is great.
check DFH out this week, they talked about what things we could be doing to make maps come out quicker, and that's one, talking with pros I think would be a good idea, but two, I like what Octagon does. It doesn't change too many mechanics of the game. It doesn't make anything bigger or smaller. Like Neo Tokyo made the ceiling go really high, the lips of the ground, like they changed so many things to it, but Octagon's great. They just made it wider and that's it. And that's
Yeah.
why I think it works out so well. So I think we should kind of stick to that focus with maps too. I totally agree with what the guys at DFH said. If you guys haven't checked out DFH Locker Room, go check it out. Their previous was phenomenal. They talked about some really important stuff that I like about focusing on the competitive scene. So make sure you guys go check them out.
What if they like instead of making I think the most people complain about Neo Tokyo just because of the corners and the way the ball like rolls
Yeah.
up the wall and bounces weirdly. If they just had the exact same corner, just a vertical wall at a 45-degree angle, then you could put the ledges on the side and you'd be fine. Maybe like one thing to consider that I've never heard people talk about before is like if they had sticky curves, like you could, you know, drive up the curve at full speed, and while all four of your wheels are on the ground, you just kind of, you know, stick to it with traction instead of like just ramping up when you don't even want to. Of course, you could still ramp up if you wanted to, if you jump at the right time, but you could choose to drive up really quickly. I think people would love that change as well to Neo Tokyo.
Right. I think
Right, I think it's a good map. It's nowhere near as bad as Wasteland in my opinion. It does create some interesting play, especially shooting from the high ground, but yeah, it's weird. The corners are a bit awkward.
I think there's like inconsistencies that come from like you can no longer be aggressive in the sense that like you can hit a ball and know where it will go. Every time you have to play reactionary to yourself, where it's like you hit a ball
Yeah.
and it's like, well, is this gonna hit like that one pixel that puts it
Yeah,
across goal, or is
exactly.
it gonna hit the pixel that's gonna go straight up? And it's like it's so
Or
close
send
that
it
you
straight
never
back
know.
even. Like
Right.
it doesn't,
Yeah.
you never know. It can just go anywhere because those corners are so different. But I mean Octagon's great. So like
Yeah.
if
I
we're
love
just talking
Octagon.
about this
It's
patch,
so good.
fantastic. Now we just need hexagon and like you know, pentagon. Just make all the different map types. It would
Be
be
cool.
pretty awesome to see like a triangular map as well. I wonder how
Just
that would
keep
work.
adding one more wall.
Or like the hockey style map. I really want that one where the
Me
goal's
too.
like off the wall. Same shape, but the goal's off the wall. That would be pretty cool.
And that's the thing,
I'll
like,
look at that one.
that's the stuff we're talking about. I mean, as long as you only change one thing, you know, okay, bring the goal
Yeah.
out, change how many walls there are, like, keep it subtle like that. I think you can implement the maps a little bit faster and then start getting more of the complicated stuff. Like, pillars is just like, oh, okay, like,
Pillars is very, very different, isn't it? I don't mind Pillars too much.
I like Pillars though,
as
too.
well.
Rumble. Pillars
Pillars
is
is
okay.
fun.
The only thing I don't like is vision is pretty annoying on it because you can't see through. Like that's something that Hoops did very well, is that you can have the massive hoops on either end, but you still see through them pretty easily. But that's not the case in Pillars. pretty, you get caught off guard. Especially like I saw that happen in Rumble viewer games or Rumble Sub Wars when somebody would come around the corner with spikes and then the defender would just be like, "Oh, he has spikes," and you don't know until it's too late. So you just get taken out of the game. But yeah, overall, like we were talking about the patch, I think the patch was a huge success. More of the same, please, Psionics. That would be pretty nice. Good to see.
Killing it. But moving
They're
along, you
even,
guys.
like, banning people now.
Yeah, making good improvements.
Farming, I like it.
On to topic 1, we're going to be talking, for those that are trying to pay attention, chat, where we are. Anytime you see 3 asterisks next to a topic, that is the one that we are on. So right now we are going to be moving on to group and LAN predictions. There is a couple that are going in. I think we're going to start with EU, just because EU has a lot to kind of talk about. Johnny, do you want to kind of go into, obviously there's ones that we assume are going to be making it on, but there's a couple other ones that have a pretty good running due to certain people not showing up due to certain things. If you want to get into that.
Yeah. How do you want to do this? Shall I bring up like one team, then we discuss that team really quickly and move on to the next one, or shall I just give the? I think I'll do that. So
the one in bold.
Number one, obviously. Yeah, I've got a little script here, so hashtag rigged scripted. But Flipside are the first team to talk about. Of course, they're the number 1 seed because they got the highest run or the furthest run in the LAN itself. Obviously, LAN has large implications for seeding. And they only have to beat the winner of Team Solid and Good Morning. Good Morning being Mike's team, that's Mike Rules, Bipod, and Spoonie. And Team Solid being Stocky's new team with Seeks, formerly of Team Solid, still in Team Solid, and Kilik, formerly of Zero Effort. So they really shouldn't pose that much of a threat for Flipside. The only danger is, of course, that Flipside might get complacent. It's pretty unlikely. I think they're going to make it to winners finals without too much difficulty. And then probably not drop more than a game in winners finals, I would say. I'm expecting Flipside pretty comfortable into groups. I don't know what you guys think.
Flipside's, without a doubt, I think they are the most secure prediction in the sense that if Flipside doesn't make it into groups, like when are zombies gonna pop up? When is apocalypse? Like what is happening if Flipside doesn't make it into groups?
Yeah.
I mean, not only would that be a disaster for Rocket League, but that'd just be a disaster for.
It'd be super surprising,
themselves.
Like
right?
the other one is obviously Northern Gaming. Now that Northern Gaming, Remco, and Maestro have picked up Mystic, they're looking fantastic. They didn't look great with Pashi, but Mystic's a brilliant fit for them. And they only have to beat the winner of Cownose versus Oh My Dog. Oh My Dog is Dogu, Turbo Pulsar, and a lot. They've been doing okay-ish. I think Cownose are the higher seed in that matchup, Cownose versus Oh My Dog. But I think Oh My Dog are probably going to advance, and that means that Northern Gaming versus Oh My Dog winners finals. Northern Gaming should take it without too much difficulty, though. But that won't be without the chat spamming Oh My Dog an absolute ton. I really like that name. I think it's a great name.
It's good to get the crowd behind you.
Yeah, like naming yourself after an emo. I don't know why Scrubs team didn't name themselves Baby Rage. They went for We Dem Babies instead, which is massive selfish in my opinion. But yeah, Northern Gaming Flipside pretty easy. Not much to discuss there, I would say. In Flipside side of the bracket, I did mention Good Morning. That's Mike's team. Mike rules his new team with Bipod and Spoonie, and I actually think they're going to make group stage. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about this, but I think that they've got a bit of luck for starters because they were going to be facing up against Complex, which is Vogan, Yeezy, and Killer number 7.
Right.
But Yeezy's internet died. Vogan and Killer had no substitute, so they got disqualified, and that means that Mike's new team have a pretty easy matchup going into the quarterfinals.
Yeah.
So they'll be in winter semis against
For those,
League.
For those that didn't see what happened, so Yeezy, that team with Vogan's new team, Yeezy basically his internet died. His phone he left at his girlfriend's as well, so there was no way to communicate with the team. Like, hey, I can't, like, there's stuff going on. So by the time that he was able to get his phone back and his internet was up and running, it was too late. They're already DQ'd. So that does put Good Morning. They were 24th seed, I think, right?
Yeah, Good Morning were 24th seed because Mike just picked up Spoonie and Bipod on the week off the signups closing, so they actually have no previous tournament results. They're only seeded at all because of Mike and his LAN run. So they were going in as 24th seed if I calculated it correctly, and they were going to be facing up against Complex, who are 9th seed, but they don't have to anymore because they got DQ'd. And then in the next round, winner semis, they'll face against the 8th seed Team Solid which we talked about previously, Stocky Seeks and Kilik, and that's, a matchup that I think Mike's team are going to take that. Although some people might say Stocky Seeks and Kilik are the favorites there, I think that Mike's star quality and determination is going to shine through. And Pod and Spoonie are no slouch. They're both like grand champion level players. So
Right.
I think that Mike's team are actually the favorites going into that one, despite the seed disparity. Then they're probably going to get beamed by Flipside in the winners finals, but in the losers finals,
Still have a good
if
chance.
things go as I expect, they only have to beat Cownos to qualify for groups. So I think that's very, very doable for Good Morning. I think Good Morning into
Make
group
for some
stage.
very, very good storylines this
Yeah,
weekend.
we're going to see Flipside against Mike, and then probably Mike's team making the group stage. So I'm all for it. I think it's great. Really excited to see what happens this weekend.
Quinn, anything you want to add on kind of those teams? Do you think Good Morning can pull it out?
I think people really sleep on how insane of a player Mike really is.
Yeah,
Mike really, sometimes he can play a little less aggressively, people think, than he is capable of. And if you go up in a 2v2 against that guy, he is a beast.
Yeah, Mike's a monster, man.
Dude, he's one of the most well-rounded Rocket League players. So and Pod as well. I mean, being the F3 sub is no joke. Like, he is pretty much considered the greatest all time of SARP, the prequel, from what I hear from all the veterans. And I mean, putting him and Mike together, it's just, I'm not really familiar with Spoonie, to be quite honest with you. But
well, Spoonie's a Swedish player who he actually was quite a popular H1Z1 streamer. He got a sub button streaming H1Z1, then he just stopped streaming, switched to Rocket League, got pretty good, and now he's like, yeah, I might as well stream some Rocket League. So he just started streaming Rocket League one day, and he's got like 10K followers, a sub button. And people are like, how did you get all this? Where did it come from? So Spoonie's like he's like got that head start to being a pretty popular Rocket League streamer, and now obviously being on a team with Mike Rules has given him another bump into popularity. So expect to see more from him. He's not the best player. Like, I don't think Spoonie or Bipod, without Mike, would have any chance of making groups. But they've got Mike in their team, who's
one thing about Mike, just to make it like that. The only reason I'm so sure that they'll make it to groups is because Mike is so great at always knowing how to find a way into another team's goal. It's so hard to stop Mike from scoring. It's so hard, man.
He's just a natural, man. He just sees things. I heard him try to explain once how to do a redirect on his stream, because somebody was like, Mike, can you explain how to do redirects, because you're really good at them? And he went into a replay where he was redirecting the ball into the top corner, and he tried to explain it, and all he could say was like, you just hit the ball. It's like the ball's there, and you flip, and then you just easy top corner, and people are just like, what? It's not that easy for us, but for Mike it's just that easy. He just sees it happen, and then he does it. He visualizes himself scoring these goals, and then it just happens exactly as he sees it. That's just greatness, and he'll always have that ability of being a naturally fantastic player. Questions came into started appearing about his work ethic, because he didn't want to train as hard as Marky and Cux did, and they decided to part ways. But that doesn't mean that Mike has like fallen off and he's now no longer a good player. He's still definitely in the conversation for one of the best players in the world. No question.
I think that's also what makes this Flipside team so dangerous. Is for the first time they're now scrimming. Greasy wants to become that next top tier level of play. Not saying Greasy's not already a top tier player. I mean, the guy's phenomenal. But having people like Cookser and Marky Doodah next to you to help, like, what more do you want other than Mike? You have two teammates that are really going to push you to that next level, and he suits their playstyle well. So Flipside, to me, definitely one of the strongest. Northern Gaming, Mystic, very good pick. Fits a lot better than Pashy ever will. And that's not anything against Pashy. Pashy's still a phenomenal player. But it's just, we talk about chemistry being a huge importance and people hitting certain roles, and we'll get into that later about what make teams successful and certain things and factors that come into play. But having a certain dynamic in your team is a big difference. So all these teams coming out, there's going to be some interesting ones. I don't know if we got to them or not. Speaking of Pashy, how about Market Aces?
Yeah, well, that story with Pashy continues now that he's left Precision Z last minute. He's joined up with Devo and Panda, two players that have had tournament success with him previously, and they are going in as the 5th seed. So that'll put them up against Penta, who are formerly Team Enjoy, in winners finals should they both make it there, which I expect them to do. And I think that Pashi, Devo, and Violent Panda will probably squeak a win in winners finals. I don't think they're going to make a dip into losers, although I hope that they do, and I'll explain why. If Pashi, Devo, and Panda dip into losers finals by losing to Penta Sports, it's not Penta Esports, interesting laugh, it's just Penta Sports, then there's a chance for the Mocket Aces versus Precision Z grudge match. So for that to happen, Precision Z need to lose in winners semis to Aeriality, which is possible, but in my opinion, unlikely. And Mocket Aces need to lose in winners finals to Penta Sports, which is possible, but again, unlikely. So if that happens, we'll have the grudge match that we all want to see in losers finals between Precision Z and Mocket Aces. But even if it doesn't, I think both those teams are going to make the groups anyway. So we'll probably get to see the grudge match in group stage. But it would be nice to see it with, all
Everything on the line, right?
Yeah, everything on the line. Only one team making it into the groups. It would be pretty interesting. And I think that in that matchup, I'd give the edge to Siki and Siki, K-Dop, and Skyline purely because I've seen them do well in losers brackets before, and I feel like Devo and Panda would choke in that high pressure situation.
I mean,
Devo
Quinn
being
obviously
a younger guy.
Quinn, obviously, you know those players. You know, Skyline, K-Dop, Siki, Devo, Violent, Pashi, like all very good players. Do you think Siki could have gotten any better of a roster with the time like restraint that he had?
It really happened the day before, and that roster is honestly a very strong roster. Whether it's the best in terms of chemistry and whether they synergize well, I mean, that's up to them to figure it out, right? And when you have one day, not even, like, I mean, you just take what you can get.
It was
to be
the
quite
only
honest
option,
with you.
right?
Right,
Yeah,
right. I
no
mean,
choice.
I can kind of compare it to Moses going to Vex, which then became Exodus, and that's picking up Espeon. At the time, Espeon was pretty much the best player who was not on a team that was looking to make a big run for LAN. Right?
Right.
I mean, he was on Retrospect, and they were not looking great. Or Onslaught, excuse me. And so we were just like, yo, Espeon, come. Just, it's fine. Like, we'll figure out the synergy, like, whatever. Just get over here and, like, let's go.
So clearly, Quinn, clearly you believe that, I mean, that synergy can definitely happen when...
Right, right. Top level players know where the ball needs to go, how to do things. The difference as far as synergy goes is how well you understand, like, your teammates' tendencies and how they'll get things done. So you'll be able to support them. Like, if you know that they're likely to mess up a certain hit or something, you'll be prepared to, like, cover for them, etc. And I mean, at the highest level, to be quite honest with you, I was playing games with Gambit and Mike yesterday in threes, right? And like, that's probably, like, we've never played together as three, but that's probably, like, we could have been playing together for like 2 years, honestly. The way we were able to position for each other and understand each other. It's just like, if you know where the ball's gonna go, and like you're a smart player, and like if you understand positioning, you'll be able to make it happen. Especially if you guys work for it. Like,
yeah. I mean, Johnny, obviously you've coached teams and stuff, so you've had time to see players as they grow as a team, get better and better. Do you know usually, like, if you had to estimate what a kind of like peak performance, like how long do you think it takes for that to really sink in, or is it really kind of a unknown variable based upon who's playing on that team?
Well, if people are approaching things with the right mindset, and with when I say that, I mean teams that are able to overcome a problem. So usually you might have a team that are really good. They have a honeymoon period where they're just crushing everybody, like Genesis when they picked up Classics is a good example, or Northern Gaming where they picked up Pashi. They just crushed Rocket Royale. And then as soon as they finish that honeymoon period, they have a problem. Genesis have ran into that problem. They're now in losers bracket in RLCS. Northern Gaming started losing with Pashi. Can they overcome that problem? And if they can, that shows to me a team that are a great, great team because they have, been able to work through a tough spot and then, start building into an even higher position than they were before. And that does take a long time. You're talking probably hundreds of hours, maybe even thousands playing together, before you can just feel like perfect teammates, like you know what your teammate's doing before he even does it. You don't even need to communicate. You just know what's going to happen. That takes a ton of time, and you can't expect to just have 3 players, play together. Like Quinn was saying, you can have 3 players that they'll play together in ranked. They might never play together, and you think, wow, this is great, it's working really well. But then what happens as soon as you run into an unstoppable force, what's the other? I can't remember the other one is. Something about an object,
Immovable object.
That's the one. What do you do, right? You're up against an immovable object, and you can't.
What's that word for a movable object? A movable
What's the
object?
word for the object you can't move? I wish there was a word for that. If only there was a word to describe something that you can't move.
Go on, John, go on. No, I think
that's the long and short of it, right? They've got to overcome a problem before you know how good a team really is. You got to see how they do under pressure.
It's just to learn how to adapt when things go badly.
Yeah,
sure,
exactly.
You can play great, but you can't always predict when you're gonna have a bad day, or like when you're not really sure what's going wrong. Having somebody who can identify that and being able to understand like what it is exactly what you're doing that's going wrong. Sometimes, to be quite frank with you, you're just having a bad day, and like you're just not gonna be at the top of your game. That's like the nature of like consistency in Rocket League, especially that it demands so much consistency. It's like a very difficult game to stay consistently
at the top. Yeah,
at the top. But I think that's why you see those honeymoon periods, because teams do great, and once other teams kind of adapt, or even maybe once you're not as hot as you were, well, what's actually not working here? Why aren't we scoring? If you can spot that, if you can figure it out, then you'll be fine.
Well said, well said. Now, the last team that we haven't mentioned yet, Supersonic Avengers, one that missed the first qualifier due to a certain someone not playing, Doomsy.
Yep.
What are you thinking? If you guys want to elaborate kind of on the storyline of that, what happened with Doomsy, if one of you wants to kind of take over that, and then the other one wants to talk about the kind of what they have to go through, that'd be great.
Do you know the story of last time, Quinn?
You better. He was in it.
I'm familiar. So like, Doomsy,
I do. But go ahead, you can take it away.
Yeah. Doomsy
nice,
went on holiday.
nice save, Quinn. Nice save.
Yeah, what an absolute bean. He just completely binned it to Doomsy. He goes on holiday, comes back with like no practice, has no confidence in himself, and they think to themselves, wow, we've just crushed this open bracket of no names with our substitute Kasabi. Let's go and play some real teams with the sub. Oh no, we lost. Oh no, we lost again. Well, let's try again next time. And of course, they tried again in the second one, and they missed out by 5 points, 5 qualification points. And the Flying Dutchman went to the LAN instead. Vogan leading the attack. So, yeah, Doomsy went on a one-night holiday to London. He went on a massive holiday to London the night before, and he was late back. Sometimes you need to do that. You need to deal with real life stuff. But the problem was obviously that there was no confidence coming back in and saying, yo, Kasabi, you're the substitute. Get on the bench. I'm playing. I'm Doomsy. But this time I expect them to play with Doomsy. If they don't,
And then he does the camera dance, right?
I'm going to break something. They've still got to beat some pretty tough teams. They need to beat Precision Z or Aeriality. Probably Precision Z. I think PZ are going to edge Aeriality in a close series in the winners semis. And then SA, I think they're going to get the job done in winners finals this time. Precision Z are a tough team, but I feel like SA, they should be enough.
God,
they really
Doomsy.
should.
Doomsy in chat. Nah, we'll let Data
side.
play this weekend. I'm not feeling it.
They probably, they're going to let Gregan play and then lose in the... that's what's going to happen.
That's why we love Doomsy. He's got a phenomenal sense of humor. Doomsy, one of the better personalities in the...
Snasky, Data, Gregan, the dream team.
Oh, man.
But yeah, they should. I think they'll get it done. I think they're going to get it done. If they don't, then they might have to face Summit, and Summit's another team we didn't mention, but they're a tough roster of Flarky, Sebedam, Jesse.
Top 15 team.
Yeah, they're probably going to be sent to losers bracket by Mucket Aces in that bracket, and then they're going to have to play the loser of Precision Z and SA most likely. And I feel like Summit are going to be, they're going to be tough to beat, but they're probably never going to be the favorites in that matchup. They're going in as the 12th seed because of Jesse's previous success at the LAN. And also Flarky and Sebedam were one game away from making group stage last time against the aforementioned Mucket. But they might have a bit of deja vu because last time in RLCS Qualifier 2, it was Precision Z who knocked Flarky and Sebadam out of the losers bracket, and Skyline's going to be hoping to do that again if they meet them in the losers finals. So look out for that one. There's a lot of grudge match potential this weekend. You know, Flarky Sebadam against Precision Z against Mocket, maybe Mike against Flipside. All these matchups are super interesting. They could all definitely happen. But in the grand scheme of things, I feel like the upsets are going to be Kaunos and Team Solid, probably not qualifying for groups despite being 7th and 8th seed. And also Aeriality, 6th seed, are going to have a tough time because they've got to beat Precision Z and Supersonic Avengers. And I think that's just going to prove to be too much for them. So Mike's team coming in as 24th seed. I think they're going to actually make it. And then Oh My Dog coming in as 10th seed. And Precision Z as 11th seed, also looking pretty good for group stage. But you know, don't count out Aeriality, Kaunos, Team Solid, and Team Summit, because those are 4 very tough rosters. The drop off in skill after top 8 in EU is far more gradual than it is in NA, as we'll
definitely
explain in a little bit.
Quinn, do you agree with those kind of predictions? And then we'll move on to NA.
Right. I think Johnny Boy's got it pretty much down. I didn't disagree with any of those. He gave pretty good reasons. So
there you go, John.
That is 6 ups. If we're like comparing my predictions to the predicted bracket, because predicted bracket just gives the win to the higher seed, then I'm predicting 6 upsets. So Team Solid and Kaunos losing twice to teams lower than them. Penta losing to Mocket, who are lower than them by 1 seed, and also Precision Z knocking down Aeriality, who are higher than them. That's my 6 upsets that I'm expecting.
And it's nice because we've seen this before. It's good for storyline as well. And there's certain teams that for the scene to grow the way that it does, there are certain teams that have to make it. G2 is one of them. I think Flipside is one of them. Northern Gaming is one of them. Like, all those teams need to make groups. Otherwise, Rocket League's going to have a tough time growing. Like, they have to make it. Like Johnny also mentioned, EU seeding is a little bit more back and forth. Just because of how close some of those teams are. But as soon as you get to like the top 3, it's a whole different level between, 4th through 12th, I would say. And those can interchange depending on who's playing, who shows up that day, how much pressure. And that's why I think you give it to, Mocket Aces over some of the other teams that are a little bit higher than them. But
just Penta. Yeah, they're 1 seed difference, and I think that it's going to be a close series. We're going to have 2 close winners finals and 2 one-sided ones. I think Flipside Northern Gaming are going to crush it. And I think that Mocket Aces and Supersonic Avengers are going to squeak in with the close games.
There'll be some good games this weekend. For those that are unsure, we are still talking about group predictions, LAN predictions. We just went over EU. Games will be on Sunday, live on twitch.tv/Rocket League. The game starts Saturday, though, with NA at 12 Central, so 10 Eastern, or 10 Pacific, 1 Eastern, which would then make it 6 p.m. BEST, right?
I think so.
6 BEST.
Wait,
yeah.
10 Eastern, 5 BST.
No, 1 Eastern. So.
Oh, 1 Eastern is 6 BST. Yes.
Yep. Okay. Good. Yeah. We got it. Nailed it. But speaking of NA, we're gonna go over to NA. Quinn, if you want to start us off, kind of teams that we're looking out for, possible upsets, etc.
Okay, so I think we can start with G2.
Makes it easy. Yep.
Right. World champs, RLCS Season 1, G2, formerly known as IBP. That is Kronovi, Lichinio, Over0, Gambit, and their new sub, Squishy Muffins. To be quite honest with you, I think that G2 had an incredible performance at the LAN, but as of late, they're really not living up to that world champ hype. They've been slacking in performance. Their games online have not been looking good. I'm not sure if it's a matter of, just kind of not really caring as much as they won LAN. But with that said, Crow factor is unreal. Crow can single-handedly carry almost any team to a victory. I think that they will win.
In winners finals?
No. I think they will win, but not in winners finals.
Because they're up against Take-Two in winners finals, right?
Right. And Take-Two is the former Mock NA team, gets slayed. That's Insol, Zane, Rizzo, Lo5, and Chad as the subs. I think that Take-Two will beat them in winners.
Really? Okay.
I think
I
it
don't think they will.
depends.
I think that when Take
It's a
Two
little
were
bit hard
Mucket
to
NA,
predict.
they choked so many times, you know? Like they got 5-0'd by you guys when you were on Genesis, right? In group play. They kept
4-1, 4-1.
completely choking in group stages and, you know,
It was so
having
long
close
ago, though.
series.
I mean, yeah,
But I feel like
Actually,
that
okay,
never
okay.
that never
I think
changes, you know?
to be quite
That
honest
never
with you,
changes.
this match it could really go either way. The way G2 have been playing, it's not great. The way Take Two have been playing as well, not great. But it's two
we know what they're
rosters full
both
of great
capable
players.
of.
They're both capable of taking games off of each other. They're both capable of beating each other. This is a best of 5, right? It's not a best of 7. It's a best of 5, meaning
Yeah.
like an upset is still possible at this high
It's
level.
less likely.
I think okay, honestly, no. I think G2 is gonna take it in winners, but I really would not be surprised at all to see G2 making it to
No,
losers.
you're sounding like an RLCS caster now. You're
I'm
like
a, I'm a, I'm a
your
Democrat, man. I'm
predictions.
a
Enough of
flip flop.
this.
Okay.
Pick one.
Hey, I take offense
Pick
to that,
one,
Johnny.
dude.
I think it's
I
more
know.
likely that
I only
G2
said that
wins
because
it.
you're here.
I think it's more likely that G2 wins it through winners, but for some reason, I just have this inkling that they're gonna go to losers. But with that said, I think both teams are gonna end up making it.
Yeah, they're both gonna make it, but I feel like G2
I
are
think
going
both
straight
teams are
in.
gonna end up making it.
I think Mucket NA, they might take a game, but they're probably gonna choke. As soon as they lose one game in that series, they're gonna choke it and lose more games.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, go ahead, Lawler. You
Yeah,
gonna say something?
and it's just like you said. Both teams are very capable of excellence. We saw what G2 is fully capable of at the LAN. Kronovia is also one of those that under pressure has always just come in clutch for whatever reason. And I mean, we've seen Take Two in the past. I mean, Zane Jackie, a player that I don't think gets enough love. I'm a little biased towards him, but he to me was the big star of the old team of Orbit, and everybody paid attention to the other two, Geno Cop and Hot Wheel Sid. But
Gino
Sid-
scored all the goals.
yeah, he did. But
Yeah,
it's the same thing with Turtle and Garrett. Turtle sets up a lot of those passes for Garrett.
A bit of an unsung hero.
Garrett's got some stupid shots, don't get me wrong. Like, I don't know how he makes some of those from where he's at, but I mean, Zane Jackie is part of the reason why those work. We saw what Zane Jackie and Rizzo were capable of when he first went on that team. So
yeah, they had a bit of a honeymoon period as well, where they were
yeah.
crushing it with team plays. Just those two in particular.
Yep. So
Will they bring
we'll
it
see how that
back?
pans out. Yeah.
I
Speaking of
think
teams
they're
that
scrimming,
I agree
so-
with on that one.
right. Speaking
So
of teams
let's
that
move on.
need to bring it back though, Kings of Urban knocked out almost immediately, if not immediately, one of the first two to get knocked out at the LAN.
Eighth place.
Do you guys want to carry
With
about what
Rocky.
you think this is going to go on?
I don't think this is gonna be anything like LAN. I think KU are coming over. I think they're gonna win dominantly and just like cruise into groups. I think there's no question. Whether they suck at LAN and they're an online team, right now these qualifiers are online. So you know what?
They're
still
the
good.
onliners.
They're still good to go.
They're the onliners,
Onliners of
man.
Urban, man.
We talk about
Online
people
is
like Quinn being a
Urban.
LAN boy, but according to
Kings of Online.
Kings Online and Urban. Yeah, I agree. They're gonna be. I don't think it's gonna be a crushing victory because they're up against Selfless. That's Dapper Miho and Timmy JNaps, who
For
are
those that are not
no
paying
slouch.
attention. Yeah,
I
Selfless
think
for those that are
Dapper
unaware.
Miho, JNaps is the main roster, right? And Timmy's a sub.
Yes.
It's like-
For those that are unaware, Selfless was originally A Money, Matt, and Sizz. Selfless is no longer with that. They dropped and went back to chemistry, and now A Money's on a totally different team and all this other stuff. But Selfless saw the chance of Momentum, a team that has been crushing through the power rankings and really climbing. All previous PS4 guys that are kind of switching over got picked up by Selfless, and I agree. I mean, Selfless, good team. They miss a couple key factors, I think. The way that I look at it is like old We Them Girls what Exodus tries to be, and then right now Selfless or Momentum is what Exodus is. Like, it's just a tier. Like, they're just steps of, like, they're missing something. So like when Selfless plays at their best, they play like Exodus, and when Exodus plays at their best, they play like Northern Gaming. So I just think they're like tiers of play. They all have their moments. They all can come out and have breakout performances, but consistency wise, there's certain things that they miss, or that's certain like X factor that they need. And I think that's why KOU will beat out Selfless, but Selfless is still a good team. That's why they'll get in.
Yeah, they're gonna make it and lose. This is
Right.
the
They're not a
recurring
bad team
theme
by
with
any means, it's
NA,
just-
right? Like the loser of winners finals is gonna win in losers finals because really the top 8 are so far ahead of everybody else.
Right.
So, I don't expect there to be. I'm saying it right now. No upsets in NA, not one. We had the upset last week of Genesis dipping down to losers early. Most people expected Genesis just to go straight in through the winners bracket, but they've taken an early dip into losers. But I don't think anybody in losers brackets going to be enough to topple them or anyone else in the top 8 for NA. So 0 upsets for NA. And yeah, Quinn will explain the other teams who are in that top 8. Like Kings of Urban, I agree, probably going to be Selfless, but Selfless through lasers, no problem. Those guys are insane.
Yeah,
Right,
Cody,
and
hit us with those
just-
other 4, man.
Exodus, Vendetta, Revival, and Genesis. Okay, Exodus is an incredible team consisting of Garrett G, Turtle, Moses, and they have Sizz and Blues as subs. Now, Sizz is a great sub to have. He's really, really good for team morale and everything. And I can help.
I can agree
Garrett,
to that.
I think Garrett can be a little shy sometimes.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? And it's like, it's so important that you have like that team energy, that vibe. It's like, yes, we can do this. That's how you make comebacks happen. That's how you you just feel good. You're gonna play well. And so I think that Exodus, they're a fantastic team, such great passing to each other. They really know how to make it awkward for other teams to ever set up anything. They do such great interference play. They're one of the better teams in NA with regards to pressuring opponents and making it difficult for them to ever set anything up. And that's why you always see Exodus fighting and having close sets with the highest level of teams. So Exodus is surefire. I don't think Exodus will lose. Vendetta is Torment, Darkfire, Lethemir, Matt, and Karma. I believe Lethemir or Matt is their third. I think it's Matt.
Surely Matt's their third.
Right.
Over Lethemir.
Right.
No offense to Lethemir. I think Matt's
Well,
just.
I haven't seen Matt playing so much recently, so that's the only reason I was unsure. But no, I know Matt is officially their third. Torment and Darkfire, man, these two guys are gods.
Yeah,
they are actually insane. They're so good at scoring, like really from anywhere across the map at the top corner. They remind me of Marky in a way where like Marky is just so good at shooting. It's like it puts so much pressure on you because no matter where the ball is, if they have a touch on it and they have power coming to that hit, it could potentially be a shot. And like if you don't have somebody back and ready for it, like they need to be going back to goal.
How many goals did Darkfire score last RLCS qualifier? Or was it like he was the top scorer for NA in the total qualifier number 2, I believe. And his shooting percentage was insane, like 45% shooting accuracy. Crazy.
Right. Darkfire is just for anyone who's nuts. No, Darkfire and Torment, these two guys are probably some of, in my mind, the best players in NA. They're still looking for that third to kind of like
bring them all together,
solidify their team, right? I'm not sure that if that is the right roster in terms of Matt and Karma and
I feel like Matt could be a good fit. Matt was the best player of the old Selfless team.
To confirm in chat, Lethemir is the starter. Just so you are aware.
Oh, it's Leth? Okay,
yeah,
okay.
Lethemir is the starter, and Darkfire had the best accuracy out of any player in second qual. So, like you guys said, they can score if they need to, and that's scary.
Darkfire and Torment understand the game very, very, very well. They're both really great shooters. They're both mechanically excellent players. This is a team that I think is definitely likely to make it. I think Exodus has the edge when it comes to an Exodus Vendetta matchup.
Yeah, I agree.
Right? Exodus is just more experienced, more well-rounded. And individually, each player on Exodus is a top player. Very top. Right? Tier 1 type thing. For NA at least.
Yeah,
I'd say Moses maybe on like tier 1.5, but still no, I think I consider him a tier 1 player with regards to the safety he brings a team and the chemistry that they have between those guys is incredible. I think they'll take care of Vendetta, but with that said, Vendetta is, oh my god, man, they're nuts. So much fun to watch that team. I think both of them are going to make it through comfortably. I think in the next bracket, this is the only bracket that we could actually see something crazy happen. That's with Revival and Genesis. Right? Revival is Chrome, Junocop, Hot Wheels, Sid. This is kind of like Orbit 2.0 with Chrome replacing Zane Jackie.
Yep.
Right? With Aaron Prem subbing. Those are two, honestly, very weak subs for a team looking to make it to groups and make a LAN run.
The subs don't matter that much, though,
Well, I'm just
right?
saying. I'm just saying. So hopefully
We're talking about
no,
the starters.
No, Vogan. You know what I'm saying? But,
Well, now the whole before we move on, the whole like thing with Vogan is that he didn't have any subs, right? And all you need to crush like all the no names is like literally anybody. You could have me sub in for you, and you're gonna like stomp all over the losers or the early rounds, and just to make sure that you give yourself a chance when the time comes, like the real tough games, to play with your starting roster. Like just get anyone as a sub, literally anybody. But nah, Vogan decided sub not necessary because they wouldn't synergize with the style of gameplay, which is nonsense, by the way. And secondly, because it was going to tear apart their team chemistry, which is again utter nonsense. I can't like criticize that decision enough. It's just ridiculous.
Right, but
anyway,
Don't leave it to a what if,
in
but
this
we'll get to that
discussion,
later.
subs don't matter because we're expecting starting rosters for week 2. Week 1 is where subs matter, in my opinion. Week 2,
right,
if you're bringing a sub, that's a misplay.
Revival and Genesis. Revival and Genesis was supposed to be the matchup that was honestly pretty. Looking at how Genesis was performing before week 1, this was looking to be like a, vacation for Genesis.
I thought most one-sided,
Easy
yeah,
group stages.
yeah.
But like, Revival is actually a very strong team. Hot Wheel Sid and Genocop have some incredible synergy. These two players play so well together. Really, they are insane together. And Chrome is a very safe player. He's so good defensively. His mechanics are great. He understands the game well, and he calms a lot. Those two players are younger. Chrome is easily one of the, he's like got that fatherly kind of figure for them, which is important that you have a leader in a team. Mm-hmm. So I think Revival will be a strong team. But since Genesis actually lost in week 1, they're going through into week 2 in losers already. And I didn't mention Genesis being Pluto, Espeon, Classics with Flow as a sub. Genesis is actually on their last legs here, and while that may not really be scary because they shouldn't be losing to anybody on the way up,
they already showed that it's possible.
Yeah, they already showed it's possible. They lost to a team which honestly 10 times out of 10 they should never lose to. 10 times out of 10. When you're at the top tier, there's like these certain aspects of the game that you understand and you need to, like, that this is what we need to beat them. The only thing that has me, the only real upset I could see is Genesis not making it.
But there's like no one in the losers bracket who's that much of a threat, especially in a best of 5.
Well, here's my let me tell you why. Let me tell you why.
They just have to sit back,
I mean, I think that Genesis play bad when they play passively. I think that when they play passively, or when they try and play patiently, and this is like coming from experience of me knowing those guys. I used to play for Genesis, right? I helped put that team together of Pluto and Espeon. Pluto is instinctively defensive, but in terms of a thinker, he's not very much of one. He's got incredible instincts, right? So like when like those really quick situations happen where you have to make a really fast flick or flip, right? Just like reactionary. He just always seems to like know what kind of has to happen. But when he sees like, okay, it's a 2v1 or and this is happening or that's happening, I don't think he's the kind of player you want, or I would choose to make the right decision every time. Right? He's kind of player it's like Lichinio almost, where it's like just unleash him and let him go crazy. Let him
he's just really fast and dangerous.
Let him do all the things he's insane at, and then like you want your teammates to maybe be a little bit more thoughtful to capitalize on what he's done, to recognize what's going to happen. I don't think he's as successful when he has to be the one thinking about what's going to happen.
Yeah, but you don't need everybody on the team to be passive. Right, I think for Genesis to succeed, it's all on classics because
it really is.
We've
already that's part of the reason why.
I think it's Pluto and Espeon. I think it's Pluto and Espeon, man. I think Pluto and Espeon have these two boys are insane players, right? But okay, Classics as a player, historically he's not very successful. He always seems to join teams and they have some like relatively
honeymoon period
success at first,
which they did. 2 back-to-back Rocket Royals.
Then they just crash and burn. Just about every team just ends up crashing and burning. They just never seem to work. And I think part of that is Classics is maybe a little young and he doesn't deal well with losing. I think that when he plays, something that happens is first thing that happens is he loses trust in his teammates. That's the first thing that goes, and that cannot happen in 3v3 because you'll start to screw your teammates over. Right?
Yeah.
Like, even if your teammate's whiffing the ball, you still have to trust him. It sucks, but like if you don't, you're gonna just hurt yourself because you're gonna try and be 2v3ing, and that guy's always gonna be out of position because he'll always be expecting you. I mean, you can't position yourself not to be trusted, right? You're gonna position yourself like your teammates trust you.
Yeah, I don't think that's like. I don't think that's the issue for Genesis, though, dude. What's your point here? You're just like rambling.
Wait, sorry.
Quinn, we're gonna hold you to a point.
Classics and not classic. Okay, Espeon and Pluto. I think both of these guys have habits that, when they fall into these like kind of tunnel vision, like, oh, I'm not sure what's going wrong, and like they just hit the ball and they don't know where to put it so that their teammates can capitalize on it. And I think that that along with Classics, who just starts to stop trusting his teammates, is potential for them to lose to no-name teams.
And that's why I said Classics
is the key,
and
again.
No, but Classics is the key,
Quinn,
because if he can trust his team, they'll win.
I'm cutting you off.
I think if Classics
this is a Pluto and Espeon problem, I think.
No, I'm saying all proponents. I'm cutting both of you off.
You've said a lot here. Okay, go on, you go, Lawler.
Cutting you both off. So the reason why Classics is important is he needs to be that aggression, so those two players can not hesitate. Espeon can get up, Pluto can be on defense. It allows that synergy that they have to work well. It's what we saw in their honeymoon phase, those first 2 weeks of Rocket Royale that they won. Classics is important because he needs to be the aggression to be that first one up. Others, they're just going to play on their back heel the whole time and get dominated. Okay, we saw that's possible. Pluto and Espeon, though, like you said, there needs to be no hesitation. They need to just be able to do what they do. Okay, and if Classics isn't applying that pressure, they're going to be in trouble. That's part of the reason why we saw they were able to lose to what we consider a quote-unquote no-name team. Okay? Do you agree or disagree, Johnny boy?
That seems fair enough. Like, all I said, which Quinn initially disagreed with, was like, the key is Classics, and I didn't even get to expand on that before he disagreed with me. Like, the reason that I think the key is Classics is because if he can just, not try and be at the center of attention, there's no way they can fail. Because no team is going to present enough threat to get the ball past all three of Espeon, Pluto, and Classics, right? If they're all relevant for all stages of the game, they don't take themselves out of the game meaninglessly, then I can't see anybody presenting them any problems. That's my
to summarize, Genesis, it is your series.
Genesis should make it through.
Genesis, it's Genesis series to lose.
Potential for upset is, I said this is the only upset I could see happening.
Nope. It's their series to lose.
I said that at the very beginning.
Well, yeah, should have left with that.
I agree.
Dude, like, Classics is the key. If Classics can stop trying to be involved in literally every play, they'll be fine. That's all they need to do. Like, Classics just needs to let it happen, because you don't need all three of Pluto, Espeon, and Classics to score a goal. You only need, like, two of them, or even one of them. They're all so good. Like, you don't need to be involved in every attack. Sometimes just sit back and wait and let the game develop. Like, I think that Classics trying to be at the center of attention is going to be their downfall if it does occur, but even though that's...
Well, I think like their skill is in their like speed, and sometimes all three of them.
Quinn, I know you missed your old team.
It.
I know you missed your old team, but we're cutting you off.
Hey, cut me off, man. But I'm just saying that's my point. I've said it since the beginning.
All right,
this isn't like a new opinion.
Well, it's good. I'm glad you reiterated your old opinion again. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Lawler.
Thank you. But I'm actually glad you guys reiterated that and you guys expanded on that, because it actually brings into our second topic really, really well. Keys to a successful team, and a lot of things that you guys did mention about how that team is going to play and how that team is going to, kind of employ their decision, comes into this second topic. So, Quinn, you and I kind of talked about this a lot behind the scenes. There are some major factors that make a key team, a successful team. Certain things that even though we may not think about it, some things do happen naturally, or some things that we may not notice. So we're going to do our best to kind of bring up these factors, as well as describe a player or a team or both that fit these roles. First and foremost, a common factor to a successful team is team chemistry. Johnny, if you want to take it away on that one.
Yeah, so team chemistry is something that we're all pretty familiar with, and that is, mostly seen, in my opinion, with when people are actually not playing a game. So let's say, like, in a game, Your teams are just communicating about the game. Like their in-game comms might seem pretty generic, but then between games is where you see really, really different dynamics, for me at least, between different teams. So let's imagine the old flip side with Mike, Marky, and Cux, where Cux is just completely silent, and then Mike and Marky are just talking about something not at all Rocket League related. And you think, oh yeah, they've got good team chemistry. Then you look at another team who might be talking about Rocket League, which is arguably a good thing to do, but they might just have the completely wrong way of going about it. They'll all be blaming each other and trying to, say, no, like we need to do this to win, or we need to do this to win, that kind of thing. And that's where I feel like just having a team who are comfortable with each other's company and able to interact socially to some degree is really important. That's what really defines team chemistry for me, is what kind of personalities are people like outside of the game. Inside the game, I think that's just automatic. Outside of
Socially,
the
right?
games, where it's like you need to like be socially
Friends.
competent, for lack of a better word.
You need to be friends, man. You need to be
Yeah.
able to be happy
Name,
with your teammates and look past things.
Now, Quinn, obviously you've been at the LAN. You have to play side by side with some of these guys. Name, like, what's a team that you think that sticks immediately out for team chemistry? A team that just clicks really well? Because I have a couple in my mind too, just by watching them interact.
KOU.
Prime example.
These guys were like glued together, like Siamese twins, like the three of them. Just like I never saw them separated, and I saw the same thing with Flipside. I saw all the best teams, like Exodus. I saw like you just stick together, and I mean it's
like-
good. It's just no support. You have support from your teammates. Like if something bad happens, they're not gonna hate you. They're not gonna like just throw you under the bus. It's like you're there together, and you've like made this journey, and like whatever happens, you guys are gonna do your best. And I mean, it's just like a sense of comfort. I just see it in so many teams.
Yep.
Mhm.
Having
The
that
LAN.
reliability makes a lot of help. Big two that I was going to mention too. Flip side, prime example of how that team works together off the field is you see someone like Cookser who's a little bit quiet, a little bit shy, and immediately anytime something was going on and Cookser needed something, he would come to somebody that he trusted, or someone in the staff, and just been like, hey, where's Mike? Where's Marky? Because he had, they were his boys. Those were his guys that he was going to rely on. Those were the guys that took care of him. And it showed in their play style. Anytime anything happened, those guys would make sure the banter on stage was still there. In between goals, they'd be like, yeah, like fun. Let's have fun. Let's, get this adrenaline still going, but let's channel it in a positive way. Don't focus on that goal that just went in. And you saw them. They went through that losers bracket with no problem. Like they crushed through it to get back into the finals. So having that kind of basis is very important. Having a team chemistry and people that you can talk to in and outside of the game, people that you enjoy spending time with, is huge, because that will carry over into the game. Things obviously in the game that you can control, your skill, also very important to a successful team. Sometimes that can be made up with other things that we'll get into. But Quinn, you want to talk about skill of a team, whether it be mechanical or similar styles for players?
Sure. One thing I think teams that when they're looking to build a successful team, players obviously everyone typically looks for the best player they can find. And that's not always the answer. There's a huge emphasis on how playstyles work with each other, and making sure that actually not everybody is the same playstyle, right? So let's look at G2, for instance, right? You have Kronovi. And when they were on IVP, at one point it was like Kronovi, Luchino, and Gambit, and it's the three most insane, mechanically skilled players with some of the best, understanding of the game, right, at the highest level. But they weren't successful because the playstyles were not compatible. They didn't bring balance on the field. There was not players who were able to deal with the ball no matter where it went, in any situation, comfortably, and be able to just be compatible all across the field. It's just not okay. And it's like, it reminds me of these teams that they get three players who are insane in the air. Well, what happens when you play other teams that are great in the air and you have no ground game? What do you do at that point? You need to have balance and skill. You want ideally teammates who are on a similar level to you. But it's okay to have a star of the team. It's okay to have players who maybe excel further or who are less skilled than you if they bring other things to the table, if they bring strategy, if they bring comfort emotionally, right? If your teams can be successful outside of just mechanical skill. If you have something to offer your team, I think you have a valid spot on team, and teams should be looking for those kinds of members, right? Pashy was the first example as the new third for Northern Gaming, but it didn't work out, right? And it could be playstyle related. It could be because of personality issues. But honestly, if you ask me, I think it was just that he didn't fit with Maestro and Remco. Just the playstyles were just not as compatible as everybody imagined. Even though Pashy's a great player, I think it just goes to show the importance of building a team that actually has versatility.
He wasn't ready to kind of like fall into their mold of what they needed. They were like, okay, Greasy's gone. Now we've got a big greasy shaped hole in our team. And they're like, Pashy, go sit in the hole. And Pashy tries to get in there and he's like, you know, he's just the wrong shape. He's trying to get in the star shape. And he's a big
What a great analogy.
So then you get Mystic come along and he's just perfect shape. And that's why you see that work so well. Because you know, you need to be the right shape of player for any given team. And sometimes just getting, oh, Pashy's rank 1 on every leaderboard, let's get him. That's not always going to be the right thing to do. Sometimes you need to get, oh, Mystic, the guy who got benched from Pashy's team in favor of Turbo, we're actually going to get him. And it's going to work out much better because he's a better fit for the mold, or because he's better at, or he's more willing to compromise his own style of play to be what Greasy was.
Not necessarily a better player, but a better fit.
Yeah, just a better fit. I agree. That's what I like to see, dude.
That's what I like to see, dude.
So proud of you guys. Look at you guys agreeing on things. I love it.
Because he was like
beautiful,
trying to squeeze him into a triangle, and he's a rectangle. It just didn't work. Right. You know, Pashy, or maybe he's a square. What shape is he? What shape is Pashy? I want to know what the Twitch chat is.
Beast shape. That guy's humongous. He's 6'7", man. What the
I know he's 6'7".
God.
It's like a really, really long rectangle.
Now this one, this carries over into skill as well, and kind of how we mentioned it was kind of a dual thing. Is there's roles in the team that are very important as well. There's certain things that chemistry can also come into play. There can be certain players that, like we talked about, how Lichinio Gambit and Kronovi, too many people had the same kind of mentality where like, okay, I'm going to be the one that goes for the shot. We get in each other's way. Nobody's back on defense, certain things like that. But in a further sense, roles in the team, there's certain players that very much so stick out where they have a defined role, or some may not even realize that they do it naturally. Kronovi being the big one is a leader of that team. He basically takes care of those guys in the sense of whether it be on stage or otherwise as a kind of a mental grounding. So there's certain things like that. So if you guys want to talk about, Johnny, if you want to go first on this one.
Yeah, so if you look at, I think you've picked a good team to talk about with this one. So the old IBP with, well, not the really old one, but the kind of in between old and new IBP. So we've got Lichinio, Gambit, Kronovi, the American Dream Team. You know, we hear all this talk about the American Dream. Well, here's the American Dream Team, guys, and they're going to try and get together and dominate NA, but it didn't work out because you had two leaders in that team. You had Kronovi and Gambit, and both of them are, you know, trying to bring their ideas to the table, and it worked great for a while, but as soon as it started to not work, they like clashed, and Lichinio just didn't have any say in how to play. They're both just bossing him around, and when that kind of happens, when you have two leaders and one guy who's just quiet, you tend to get a sort of dynamic where the quiet player just gets bullied, and I think that's what happened to Lichinio. It wasn't intentional in Kronovi or Gambit's part, but I feel like it just turned into let's all gang up on Lichinio, which was not, like I said already, not deliberate, but it happened. And the way to stop that is to have, like, I used to play World of Warcraft Arena 3 versus 3, and I think that the perfect like personality threesome, for lack of a better word, is to have one guy who's like a leader, and at the end of every game is going to say, come on, like, we did this wrong, we need to do this better. And then you have one guy who's going to challenge the leadership and be like, no, I think this is what needs to happen. I think because that, you know, means that no stone is left unturned. But then you have a third guy who's more of just a listener, and you know, he's listening to all the information that's given him, and when he does speak, it's like, oh yeah, he's actually speaking, let's listen to him because it's probably really, really smart. Perfect. I think that combination, that three personalities is perfect. You can't have two leaders, but it's not ideal in my opinion. You need one leader, which is Kronovi, and one guy who's going to like challenge the leadership, which I think is Overzero, He's gonna like come back at Crow on some things, and then you have Lachinio who's just sitting back and listening. He doesn't want any conflict. He's just gonna be like, okay, thank goodness that they're talking amongst each other and not bullying me.
I
They're just trying
completely
to figure
agree.
things out.
I completely agree. It's important that even if you do have a leader, that people are willing to challenge him so you can talk things out and understand
Yeah.
why things are actually the case. You can see the reasoning behind decisions and what went wrong or what you think went well.
Yeah, and think of what would happen if you had two of one type of personality and just one of another. So if we had like we've already discussed what two leaders looks like, it ends up into bullying the
So
third guy.
say you
If
have two passive players, right?
Yeah, if
Quinn,
you
I
had two,
think
like,
you have some experience on that.
yeah,
Yeah,
like
maybe.
Quinn's like just with probably I'd say Espeon and Polluter are more like passive guys listening, and then Quinn's trying to lead and nobody's like giving him anything to bounce off. So it's very much just like, well, I've got all these ideas and nobody's trying to help me make it work. So that sometimes doesn't work. And if you've got two people who are challenging one leader, then it's going to turn into the leader getting bullied. So you've got to have a very good balance.
I mean,
I'd say a
I
leader,
think
somebody's challenging it, and somebody listening.
Espen would occasionally he always had to hear what I say, but sometimes I'd say things and even if you say things, you want to know how a player thinks, right? I always every time I played on, I always tried to direct them, and I was always that leader role, right? For Genesis and for Orange Creamsicle, I always try to talk and say, look, this is what I think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? I want to know what you're thinking so I can see what's going on in your head, right?
Exactly,
Because
yeah.
there might actually be something we fundamentally disagree on. And if that's the case, that needs to come to the table so that we can figure it out and we can talk it over. And maybe I might be wrong. Everybody could be wrong. And I see Cloudfield in the chat saying basically teams should be no ego. And that's so true. Teams definitely don't need an ego. You need to talk things over, but you need someone who's willing to push that conversation in the leader role, someone who players can just be comfortable listening to.
Now
Right?
for
And you need people who can
willing
just
to be wrong, because a
Right.
leader
Yeah.
needs to be willing to be wrong. You've got to have somebody put their opinion out there of why you lost a game for there to be any discussion at all, or else it's just silence and nobody's
that's
figuring out
great
anything.
because it leads into the next two keys. Having that ego, and ego in general is something that's very tough because there's two things that come in the side, and the last two things that I'm going to give away. One of them is coachability and an ambition for it. Someone that's willing to put their ego aside and learn, and something else, which is effort, being able to put in the time to also learn. So I think, Johnny, I'm going to have you talk about coachability, and then Quinn, I'm going to have you talk about effort.
Yeah, and coachability is, funnily enough, intrinsically intertwined with ego, because we always think of ego as a bad thing, but in certain situations, having an ego isn't a bad thing at all. So let's imagine there's three different types of coaching. One of them is top-down coaching, where the coach has final say in everything. One of them is just side eye-to-eye coaching, where it's more of a discussion and you need to reach a mutual agreement. And the other one is where the player has the final say. The coach just brings things to the table, and the player has the final say on what is right and wrong and what they want to take into their own game. And that's, I think, the type of coaching that is the only type that will work in Rocket League at the moment, because coaches are not experienced enough, myself included, to be a top-down coach or eye-to-eye coach. With top teams, at least. With a more middle-of-the-range team, yeah, sure, you could maybe have that dynamic. But with top teams, which is what we're discussing, ego is great for the player to be able to distinguish what is useful and what isn't useful. He can take something that a coach brings to him and say, okay, yeah, I see what you're saying there, but I'm going to, let's say that the coach brought three things to the table. He said, A, B, C, that's what you need to work on. The player can then go, okay, I like A, don't really like B, and I hate C, so I'm going to work on A, and then that might be a really, really good decision. And that's another thing that separates players, is people who are willing to listen to what's brought to them and then distinguish what's useful and what isn't useful and apply their time efficiently. So the coach's job in that scenario is just to make the player's life easier, watch all the replays that they don't have to, tell them what you saw in the replays that the player doesn't have to, and then the player, if he's coachable, will listen to all the information, lap it up like a sponge, and then afterwards is when he decides if something was actually useful or not. I think that's the key.
And that's why it's a it's a two-way street on that. Someone who's coachable also needs to be willing to speak up and say, all right, he told me to do something, or I should try something out. Be coachable and be willing to actually try it. I know Scrubkilla is phenomenal at this. I know every time you tell him something, like, Scrub, you can try this, and he's like, and he immediately tries it, and he tests it out to see if it's worth it, and if not, he'll bring feedback back. And that's the second part of it, is he's not willing to also, coachability doesn't just apply to, okay, I'm willing to listen and take direction. It also means, like, I'm willing to give you feedback about what you said. It's a two-way thing, saying, hey, you should try this out. Hey, I tried it out, it didn't work, but I came across this, what do you think? And building that rapport and that kind of feedback is huge. Coachability is a very, very large role, and being ambitious enough, I guess, is that side end of it, to not only share but also learn off of that too. So
yeah, I think there's actually one interesting thing I could say on that, because Scrubkilla is a bit of a unique character out of all the people I've talked to, because he in the beginning wasn't a particularly coachable person. Like, I would tell him something, and then like we were playing together, and I'd say, oh, by the way, like, I just noticed you could do this, maybe that'll make you more successful in that situation. And then he would be like immediately on the defensive, no, actually, like, you need to do this. And he thinks that I'm kind of attacking him, but I had a couple of dialogues with him. I was explaining, like, it's not me trying to blame you for the loss. Of course, you're a far better player than I am, and we're losing the game mainly because of me, but that doesn't mean that you're playing perfectly. And he can then use his ego, I guess, to distinguish between what is useful information and what isn't. But for the most part, Scrub learned how to be a coachable player, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. He didn't start off as a coachable player, but because he's such he's so young, like, it's quite easy for him to change his mentality. And he was like, oh, okay, yeah, so I just need to listen and then make my judgment on the situation. And he now is an extremely coachable player, at least to me, because I've kind of earned his respect, and that's fair. Like, I wouldn't expect him to
something that takes time.
Get a new if let's say he had a new coach who he has never talked to before, you don't need to give that coach 100% respect, I guess. Well, maybe respect's the wrong word. 100% well, I guess what I'm trying to say is they have to earn your respect, right? They've got to bring things to the table that proves that they're worthwhile. Nobody in Rocket League right now is just given a free pass as a coach because of who they are. Nobody's established or has a track record.
Right.
Yeah. You need to have a track record to prove
respect
that you're
to
in that
shout out to
position.
Scrub.
Yep.
But
Scrub, keep it going, man. 2 more years and then we'll
Sonny,
see.
he learned how to be coachable, I guess.
Right. Well, I mean, that
Like,
kind
it's
of
harder
goes
as
to the
you're
next
older,
point of
too.
Effort. Right. Anytime you bring a coach into a situation, it's kind of like a private tutor when it comes to school or something, where it doesn't matter if you have somebody who's there dedicated to helping you become better, just you. They are focused on only you. If you don't put in the effort yourself
Mm-hmm.
to actually hear what they have to say and give it a go, and you're not thinking, okay, he's telling me to do this because, and there's a reason behind it, right? If you're not willing to see that there's always improvements for yourself, and you're going to actually actively focus on improving yourself, any coach, any tutor, if you will, right, it's going to go to waste.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, when I was trying to get better at this game, and any game I play, I want to get better. I hate, just being stagnant, and I'm always kind of trying to look at what did I do wrong, everything, and that's one side of it, being able to analyze stuff. But then the other side is, okay, when I go into this next game, I'm gonna really, really focus on, let's say, making sure all my wall hits are good wall hits. Or this next game, I'm gonna focus on making sure I don't overcommit for a shot when the other goalie's already up and I'm not even off the ground yet.
Mm-hmm.
It's always looking for ways to implement the coaching, finding ways to get better, making ways for you to get better. When you watch pros stream and you see them do these things in free training, sometimes they're just kind of oh, whatever, just messing around. But then sometimes they're actually trying to practice very specific mechanics. And it's those players, right? I used to see Crow do that when I first started playing the game, when I just got the game and I had a controller and I couldn't even figure out how to do an aerial. It's well, wow. I see Crow practicing flying back behind the ball to save it, like an aerial when the ball's already behind him, and he flies over the ball and lands to stop it. And I was like, what? This is insane. But it's like that's the kind of effort you need if you want to get better. So for teams out there looking to prove or looking to like improve and become successful, you may have a coach, right? But if you don't put that effort in, it doesn't even matter if you had that coach. Effort, I think, is like the number one thing. I think that's what Johnny Boy was saying with Scrub. Is like not only does he hears out what Scrub or what Johnny Boy says, but he actually tries to utilize it. He actually tries to see how it works and how it plays out. So
yeah, like conversations with certain players in the past, not just Scrub. This is like with lots of people because I've had the opportunity to coach like pros and pro teams, and even like prospects and challenger, rising star, whatever players. I've had a wide range of people that I've helped, and I've had lots of conversations like where I'll explain something and they say like, really? They're like really skeptical, and that's fine. Like being skeptical is fine as just a suggestion. But then the players who are skeptical and then they go and try it, that is to me what proves somebody as a coachable person, right? Because they're skeptical about how well something's going to go, but they give it a go anyway because they want to see for themselves. And that's
one thing I
what I like
forgot to
to
Totally
see.
say
fine.
is that even once you do get to that highest level, or even when you're getting really close, it's so important you don't give up. I think the reason Crow is so insane is because even though he's basically been a god at Rocket League, he still will go into free training and practice things. He will learn new mechanics like half flips that came out later in the game. He goes into free training for 6 hours to get it down to where he doesn't think about it. And like that's effort. That's like insane dedication to the game.
That's
He
just
does
where
like
he did.
he does
And-
listen to other people's input as well. Like
Right.
people, we're talking about Crow as a leader, but we're shout out to him. He's also a pretty good player as far as like learning other people's ideas. Like he'll look at what Marky's doing or what Cux is doing. I know that he watched when I like casted him versus Scrub live, and he got roasted by Scrub. And then he watched back the VOD to see what he could do better. And then the next time I saw him play ones, he'd completely changed his play style. So he's definitely a player who's looking out for resources to let other people help him improve.
Right. I
Which is
think
not
players
the case for
think
everyone.
it's talent, but it's really like it's effort, man. All these
He really
top
puts it in.
players.
It's work ethic, yeah.
All right,
Well, it's a
so
bit of both.
which is great. So
Both.
okay, that brings us to kind of the next point of this. So you found the factors. You know what you need to do to be a great player. You've done that. You've done a good job. You know what? You finally made it on a pro team. You're killing it. You guys are now top 15 in the power rankings. Okay.
Oh, awesome.
You did it, boys. Good
I
job.
love it. Yeah.
made it.
We did it,
Top
team.
15,
We
man.
did it,
We
team.
did it.
Team, that's
did
the
it,
thing, made
brother.
it. All right.
Oh,
Next
well
up,
done, man. With a gun.
what are your responsibilities now? You are made it as a pro player. You have certain responsibilities that you need to keep in line, not only for yourself, but your teammates, and also this esport. You're responsible for certain things happening. One of those big ones is if you want to stay relevant, you need to be goal-oriented. Quinn, do you want to talk about being goal-oriented as a pro player?
Right, that kind of goes to what I was just saying about putting in effort. Goal-oriented means that when you get into the game and when you're playing Rocket League, if you want to be that top 15 team, or even if you're, like you said, you are then the top 15 team, you're not going to get better without having targets for yourself. And at every level of player, you can make a target that's realistic, right? If you're a no-name team, if you've never competed before, a realistic goal would be to make it there, to have like a good time, to compete, to be successful with regards to entering the tournament, making sure everything goes smoothly, and making sure that you and your team were able to see things that you did badly and work on to improve. A goal for a top team might be to achieve a certain performance at a tournament, and it's always creating these goals for yourselves that helps kind of keep the motivation going, right? Teams that just kind of say, well, we should win, we should win, we should win, we shouldn't. Well, yeah, you should win, but on top of that, right, what is a goal you can make to help you achieve winning? So you need to have goals about how you're going to do your own performance, and you need to be completely realistic and grounded with them. It's not, you're just going to hurt yourself if you make goals that are unachievable. And on top of that, saying, okay, in these set, we know like if you're a very top team and you know that one team does something very well against you, we'll say, okay, in this series, let's make sure that when we go and we play them, I want to try and do this. I want to try and do that. I want to make sure that they don't always punish me for a certain mistake I tend to make, right? It's just like creating these small little goals with the intent in your mind that when I go into the series, this is something that's going to improve. When I go into this tournament, as a team, these things will get better.
Mm-hmm.
Anything to say there, Johnny? Just like that was like the empty.
Well, I mean, I think you're absolutely right. You know, like specific goals is really good. The only thing that comes to mind is some people ask me, you know, what do you do if you're in a slump? You can't win a 1v1 game. You seem to be on a rank losing streak. Quite simply, just have secondary objectives is probably the best way I could describe it. So what's the secondary objective look like in Rocket League? Obviously, your main objective is to win. Secondary objective, well, this game I'm gonna score a sick ground shot, or like this game I'm gonna, you know, never miss the ball by accident, or I'm gonna never miss the boost. I'm gonna, you know, practice my quick aerials. You can do anything you want, and that when you start introducing things like that, you've got very clear goals, like Quinn said, and something that's very achievable. Even if you lose the game, you might have completed your secondary objective and been like, yes, I did good this game.
Right, and Chet's summarizing, you know, focus on the things that you can control. It's coming from Cloud Fuel, our one and only Rocket League.
The god.
And I mean, Gregan said it too. Focus on performance and not results. I mean, obviously, results are your goal. That's where you wanna end up. This is what I'd want to win. But you should be focusing on the things that get you to that point. So, staying goal oriented, staying hungry. Second, coming up, due diligence. We're a pro team. We're practicing. We're putting in the effort. We have goals that we want to hit, but there's certain things that we need to do behind the scenes to make sure that when worse comes to worse, there's nothing standing in our way but our own skill. Johnny, I'm gonna have you talk about this one.
Yeah, and this will sort of start to become less relevant when things like team managers become more common, and if Rocket League explodes like we hope and expect it to, then people will start moving into team houses and have lots of things like just done for them. But right now, players who are, you know, going out of their way to play in as many tournaments as possible, organize scrims, like have serious practice, have a good sleeping schedule, look after themselves, stay healthy, that team's going to do better more often than a team who are not entering tournaments, not scrimming, not practicing in their own time, not having a good sleeping schedule, and you know, synchronizing with their teams in that regard. So right now, the weight is on the players' shoulders. In the future, some of that might be lifted off by a team manager or by living in a team residence and having a practice facility. But you know, even that can be looked at with due diligence. Like, which teams are trying to make these things a reality, like have managers, coaches, team houses. That can be looked upon as something else for players to do in this category. And yeah, good teams will be the teams who succeed in this as well as in other things.
Right. I mean, I like how Johnny brings it up too, because in time, if you've watched any other big esports kind of go into develop, when you start having player salaries and stuff and your only focus is to play the game, usually there's going to be multiple types of managers or coaches that come in, whether it be players managing themselves or having a dedicated player manager, someone who, like Johnny says, okay, you guys have to go to bed by this time. You need to make sure you're scrimming on these days. They schedule everything out to make sure the player's job is literally, I focus on playing the game and making sure I don't die of starvation. That's it. You got to make sure you eat. You got to make sure you play this game a lot. That's it. So it's there to simplify as much as possible so they can focus on what's most important, which is playing the game. And as that becomes a commonplace, as I'm sure it will, it's going to really change up. And right now, the players who don't really have that opportunity, because it's kind of tough because it is a big financial thing, they have to take care of that themselves. And it kind of goes right in with that responsibility aspect, is you need to, as a player, okay, what things can go wrong, internet, etc. I should have a sub. I'm sorry, Vogan, but what are you thinking? Why would you leave it to what if? I don't, like, I understand you don't need one when you get there, but what if? You should always consider that. And I can't believe that someone who puts in all this effort and this work would leave it to chance. It just baffles me personally. Having the ability to, when certain things come in, like, I'm trying to think of, for lack of better words, like, you should know when your games start. Like,
yeah,
how do you not?
Like when
you should be getting enough sleep. Like
Marky missed or nearly missed.
Yeah. because he believed in another
Seriously,
team,
SSA.
Doomsy.
Because Doomsy Snaski told him it was like an hour
Yeah.
later than it actually was, but that's Marky's fault just as much as it is Snaski and Doomsy's, or I think it was Doomsy at least. But yeah, I agree. Players just need to figure it out themselves. It's an interesting one though, like how much should the players be just doing at this moment? It's an interesting balance because you don't want to try and do too much that'll just like make you get burnt out, you know? Because you don't want to get burnt out, like even in a team house environment when you're just playing all day and everything else is being done for you. You've got to, if you are getting burnt out, you should probably tell your manager or your coach or your teammates, say, guys,
Right.
like I need to take it easy for a while.
And that'll come in time too.
I'm having a tough one.
Player managers aren't just for like making sure and like babysitting and like make sure you guys are here on time and do this and that. They're also, a reliable source for, hey, this teammate's kind of being a dick. I don't know how to present this to him. What should I do? They're there for like emotional support. They're there to help with contracts. They're there for an overall situation of someone that you can just simply rely on. Obviously, there's going to be times where they say things that you don't want to hear because that's part of their job. They have to be kind of a little bit more strict, but they are there to be someone that you can relate to and be reliable of, whether it be, team chemistry issues or something with your contract or what have you. And I'm kind of just reiterating that stuff because it is important and that stuff will come in time. But when it really comes down to it, players need to take care of that themselves right now. And that's not always easy. And I'll mention this yet again, like we do every other week. We are here to help until that stuff comes into play. Do not be afraid. There's a bunch of us older guys that are in the community that have watched esports grow since we can remember. And if you guys just aren't quite sure, do not be afraid to reach out. We're here to help.
Do you know how many people reached out to Siki when he got booted by Devo and Panda last minute? Like,
yeah,
it's first thing I did. I was like, right, where's Siki? Siki, dude, I need to help you get a team. What are your thoughts like of joining KW and Skyline? He was just like, I haven't really thought about it. Still in like this shock period that my team have deserted me, but yeah, thanks for reaching out, dude. Like, so many people I know messaged Siki in that moment. Because the last thing that we want is for him to be teamless. We really want everybody to get the best situation possible. At least all the people who aren't scumbags. We can throw the scumbags in the ditch, but yeah, Siki seems like an alright guy. I met him at the LAN. Seems pretty nice. So
seems okay.
Yeah, they're good.
Yeah, he got my vote of confidence.
All right, so you finally met your teammates, right? You guys are all buddies now. Everything's going good. You had someone to tell you when to be on time. And now we talked about something that we could mention a little bit earlier too, about having that team chemistry. That also applies towards off the field. What are things that you can do to maintain a team environment as well as the relationships with your teammates? Quinn, if you want to bring that on, some of the things, if you want to give like personal experiences of things that you did when you were playing for Genesis. And then Johnny, some of the things that you saw when you were helping out some of the Flipside guys, because I know you traveled early with them.
Mm-hmm.
When I was on Genesis, I knew that Pluto and Espeon, like I'm a little older, a little more experienced, like traveled quite a bit. I knew this wasn't going to affect me as much as it was going to affect them. Like Pluto coming out to California was his first time on a plane. However you want to think about that, I mean, it's going to be like a new experience. It's going to affect him in some shape. And it could be positive, it could be negative. I just tried to do whatever I could to make them comfortable. Anytime there were like potential
You set up
arguments.
LAN before LAN, right?
Yeah, the LAN before LAN.
The LAN before.
We actually landed at my house for a week before LAN.
Yeah.
So I said, hey, you guys can stay here. Whatever you need, like it's fine, it's cool. I got you. Like with regards to food, anything. You're
You
hungry,
bought a
let me know,
PC
we'll go
for
get it.
Pluto, and then
Okay.
returned it.
So we actually
went out of his
the
way, man.
PC, and I mean, we could have just practiced on his like laptop at like 40 FPS, but I actually went and thank God for being an adult and having money in a bank account. I was able to go buy a PC, and shout out to Best Buy, 14-day return policy.
Easy for the product placement, boy.
Literally, no questions asked. Like you can open it and turn it on and return it. It's fine. I was like, okay. We actually like bought a PC. It was like $1,500 that I had to float for a couple weeks, but that was important.
It paid off though, right? Like,
no, it did actually pay off, right? I mean,
right.
It made Pluto feel better going to LAN. It made all of us feel better about practicing together, and like not just that. I mean, also in a team environment, right? Like Kova now coming to LAN was so important in our roster because I knew he would make Pluto and Espeon uncomfortable. They're really good friends.
They're
So
all
I just-
weebs, is what he's trying to
Yeah,
say.
they all watch like
They're all
anime
weebs.
and crap together, and like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so important
That was one sentence, not like they all watch anime and crap
Yeah.
together. It was one like thing.
Yeah.
I actually want to chime in on the sub
All right,
thing
go ahead.
because going back to Vogan's statement or like replies about why having a sub is a bad idea, like I could not disagree more. I think having a sub is a great chance to just get someone in there who's going to do exactly all these things that Quinn is saying. Just make people feel comfortable and make people feel at home, and that's what Bipod did for Flipside, and in a way what I also did for Flipside, because I wasn't a sub for them, but I was kind of like just with them the whole weekend, and we were just chilling out together quite a lot. So being able to just hang out with the guys, and especially I think for Cuxer it was the biggest deal because he was pretty nervous about the whole trip, and he's a bit of a quiet guy. So being surrounded by people like Marky, Mike, and me who are just pretty loud and obnoxious, that helped Cox be less of the center of attention, which is not what he wanted to be. And having a sub is a perfect opportunity to do that. Get in somebody who's going to complement your team personality-wise. Like I think Pod was great. Husky, talked to him a lot. He was a really nice guy.
Flo.
Some of the subs I didn't get to speak to as much as I would have liked
Flo,
to.
that
But
hair though. Oh,
yeah, Flo with the flowing hair. Getting a
Man.
sub in,
what a main.
you know, just get someone who looks good in a team picture, someone who'll intimidate the other teams because they look so badass. It's like, oh man, what if they get the sub in? He looks so scary. You know, having a sub's a great opportunity, and this whole nonsense about, oh yeah, subs come in and they tear apart the team atmosphere, could not disagree more. That's just nonsense coming out from Vogan. Just it sounds
like
like an
having a-
excuse to me. It's like, oh man, I beamed it. I forgot to get a sub. Let's think of a really good excuse. Yes, subs, they break apart team atmosphere, and we couldn't possibly get a sub who isn't a SARP vet, because SARP vets play differently. Come on. I thought that was just ridiculous. But yeah, the point is subs are a good opportunity, a big opportunity, if you will.
You may not need them, but they can bring a different aspect to the
Just-
team, like you said, whether it be moral or
Like Sis Exodus, yeah, the morale.
it
Just
helps
being able
helps
to-
ton.
Like if you've got a really young team, get a sub in who's an older guy who can, you know, make sure that people don't get lost between the airport and the hotel. Like let's imagine Exodus go to EU, and then you've got the combined age of like 40 between the three players. Now they're a bit older than that, but you know what I mean. Get an older
16,
guy who can
15,
kind of look after them,
Barely
help them feel
like
comfortable
45
in the
something like
real
that,
world.
46.
Yeah,
Bunch of young guns.
Just find somebody who'll complement the team's personnel. And if it's not a sub, like same thing to be said for coaches and staff. Like you need people who are going to make the players feel comfortable, not people who are going to, you know, make the players think, oh no, it's that guy again. Here
Right.
he comes, which is, you know, what most people thought when they saw me come in at the LAN. Like, oh, for goodness sake, it's Johnny. What do we do? But
Right.
yeah, you want to just make a nice environment for people, you know.
Important
Feels
stuff.
good.
Now, there's a lot of people talking about this in chat too, and age difference definitely comes into play during this too, because it's not easy. You know, a 16-year-old kid isn't going to be able to go out and drop, you know, $1,500 on a computer, and then return it and get the money back anyway. It's just it's not possible. But something that applies towards even if you are at a younger age is trying to balance. And I'm going to throw in another one with this one: your job versus your hobbies versus school versus Rocket League.
Love life.
Yeah, like relationships, all that stuff. So,
Yeah.
Johnny, do you want to talk about the difference between balancing like a hobby and a job versus Rocket League?
So, like, well, with a hobby and a job, it's purely don't let your hobby get in the way of your job. But with Rocket League and a job, like Rocket League is for lots of people a part-time job in a way because they're earning money off it, whether that be tournament winnings or a salary from an organization or just donations from Twitch, subscriptions from Twitch, like adverts on YouTube. There's lots of ways for people to earn money through Rocket League, and that's pretty much a part-time job. So with that in consideration, you want to try and balance out like what you know, how much time can I put into Rocket League before it starts to get in the way of other things like your real life. Really for like hobbies and a part-time or a job, it's pretty much make sure you don't bean the job by neglecting it. But with Rocket League, at some point, Rocket League is going to be enough of a part of some people's lives that they can actually give up on their job if that's what they want to do and focus full time on Rocket League or streaming or pursuing a career in esports. But that's not for everyone. That's a very specific thing, and you need to make these decisions with care and consider all of the different angles, and remember that when you shut some doors, you can't just open it again. It's not like I quit my job and then, oh, we didn't qualify for RLCS. I want my job back, and they're like, no, you quit. What are you doing? So be careful. Don't just, because I know a lot of people get excited. They're like, oh man, we're one game away from qualifying for RLCS. Let's drop everything and go pro. Then you don't qualify. What do? You got to have a backup plan. Always have a backup plan. Always think about what the worst possible situation is and prepare for that. And then when it doesn't happen, at least you prepared for it. You can't go wrong.
Hope for the best, prepare for the worst. You don't want to risk it.
Yeah, exactly.
Carries it over to doing that due diligence of having subs being organized, etc. And there's certain things too. I mean, we see a lot of pro players where they get burnt out on Rocket League. They play so much all the time where they forget to, go hang out with their friends in real life, or go, just go do anything outside, or just something that takes you away from the game for a little bit, because playing it nonstop over and over again, and if you're not winning or you're not having fun anymore, it can be extremely frustrating. You need to find a balance of having fun but also staying competitive, because you will get burnt out. And I've even noticing that. I've only been playing more and more because, during the downtime, I need something to do before we go back to RLCS. And it's like, yeah, why not play RLCS? And there'll be certain days where I'm just like, I can't bring myself to play. I'm just so burnt out after playing every day for 12 hours for 3 weeks straight. I need to mix it up. I need to play a new game. I need to go out. I need to, do something, whether it be playing Rumble. Like, Rumble was a huge, I think, help to a lot of people. And I think that's why a lot of people like it, is because it is a good mix up from your standard 3v3. I think it's phenomenal. And I don't know people who don't laugh while playing Rumble with like private matches. It's hilarious. So it's a lot of fun. But you definitely need to have a good balance. Make sure you have a backup plan. Obviously you want to try to make it a career if possible, and you need to put in the work for that. But try to find a good balance. Don't get burnt out. Don't get upset. Don't, really put yourself in a bigger hole if it's going to keep making things worse. Quinn, is there anything you want to add on top of
that? I really think that it's just, you guys pretty much covered the entire topic, but for the most part, teams being able to enjoy the game enough that they're still able to have fun with it. Something that really happens is, like, you start to become sick of the game, and when teams try to improve, or like if someone gives you any constructive criticism, you're just like sick of the game, so you're just kind of like, well, screw what they have to say, or like, you may not like be as open to like playing and improving it, and it just kind of hinders your rate of improvement. So I think it's just important that teams always focus on, enjoy the game, have fun with it, take it seriously, like be goal oriented, be focused. But at the end of the day, man,
yeah, you better be having fun.
Because we love Rocket League, right?
That's why you build that rapport in those. Yeah, that's why you build that rapport with your teammates, your players, your friends, and stuff. Because you talk about, like, and for those that don't know, so it's Game 4, Flipside Tactics versus iBuyPower, right? Over 0 scores, that overtime goal brings them to Game 5. He gets excited. They're all missing high fives, like everybody's going crazy. They sit down. The first thing,
high five training, dude.
The first thing that I'm pretty sure, like I'm almost positive I heard this from Kenobi. The first thing that he said to Overzero is he looks over him and goes, "You're still not Gambit." They all laugh, and then they go back into playing. They keep it lighthearted despite that adrenaline. They're all hyped, but that laughter, that banter, is what keeps them focused, but not like over the top. Like they're not freaking out like, oh, one big mistake. It keeps it at a good in between. So without that rapport and that kind of balance with your team, I mean, there's certain things that on and off the field that makes a huge difference. It really does. Plus, it's hilarious.
Yeah, Kenobi can be pretty savage. Like on stream, he's quite PC and like just standard guy, but off stream, he's a savage, man.
Yeah, it's funny though, because it brings him back down to the level, and it's like, all right, let's go. Like, let's focus on what's important. Like, yeah, crazy goal, but we still got one more game, man. And why not do it in a funny way with a joke, you know? So, cool stuff. That comes with that
Wraps
report.
it up, huh?
Yeah. So that is going to do it for week 13 of That's the Thing with myself, Lawler, Johnny Boy, and Quinn La Abdel, our new full-time member. Hopefully he'll have a webcam next